this video recording. Um, so I might make a few mistakes, but in any case, today is the most amazing lesson in A Course in Miracles. There are other really good ones too, like this, but this is really a good one. And it's lesson 109, I rest in God. I have like a couple quotes from this passage on my bracelets that I adore. I rest in God, shaken by the world's appearances on my bracelet. So this one is a really deep one for me in my heart. So anyway, let's begin talking about the lesson now. So initially, I'm going to read the lesson and then I'm going to read the recap of the lesson, which breaks it down so you can understand certain things you might not understand very well. So let me begin. So lesson 109 is I rest in God. And the lesson says, we ask for rest today and quietness unshaken by the egoic world's appearances. I know what I have on my bracelet. We ask for rest today and quietness which will be unshaken by the egoic world's appearances. The world out here, just the world in general, is mostly egoic appearances, egoic actions, egoic behaviors, all of that. So we ask for peace and stillness in the midst of all the turmoil born of the clashing egoic dreams. We ask for safety and for happiness, although we seem to look on danger and on sorrow. We ask for happiness and safety. Trust in God that will answer our asking with what we request. And we have thought, I rest in God. That will answer our asking with what we request. I rest in God. This thought that you rest in God will bring to you the rest and quiet, peace and stillness, and the safety and happiness you seek. I rest in God. This thought that you rest in God has power to wake up the sleeping truth in you, whose vision of Christ sees beyond appearances to that same truth in everyone and in everything in the world there is. It's not obvious that it's that way, that everyone has this aspect of themselves, or that everything in the world has this aspect, but it is true at a soul level. So just recognize that, even though you might not understand what that is saying or meaning right now, just trust that that's true. I rest in God is the end of suffering for all the world. Also, let me say this version I'm reading of the lesson has a few little extra parts that make it easier to understand added in there. So if you're looking at the lesson and you're like, this isn't what I'm reading, it has some extra passages there. And also, I might get emotional at certain points of the lesson. So please excuse that. So, I rest in God is the end of suffering for all the world, and everyone who ever came and will yet come to linger for a while in this world. Suffering for everyone who came to this world or will even come here to linger for a while. I rest in God is the thought which the Son of God, ourselves, we are the sons and daughters of God, is born again to recognize him or herself. I rest in God, completely undismayed, not worried or upset, completely undismayed. Not worried or upset, dismayed by all that I see, what it seems not right, what feels not right to me in this human body. I'm undismayed. I am unbothered. This thought that you rest in God will carry you through storms and strife, past misery and pain, past loss and death, and onward to the certainty of God. There is no suffering this thought that you rest in God cannot heal. There is no problem that this thought that you rest in God cannot solve. And no appearance but will turn to truth before the eyes of God, before the eyes of you who rest in God. No appearance will turn into truth before the eyes of you who rest in God. I also repeat some of the phrases that I really like or maybe need repeating for better understanding. This is the day of peace. You rest in God, and while the egoic world is torn by winds of hate, your rest in God remains completely undisturbed. Yours is the rest of truth. Appearances, things you see, cannot intrude on you in your peace, in your love, in your happiness in God. They can't intrude on your peace. The way the things you see out here in the world cannot intrude on you in your peace in God. You call to all to join you in your rest, and they will hear and come to you because you rest in God. All that join you will not hear another voice than yours because you gave your voice to God, and now you rest in God, and let the Holy Spirit speak through you. In the Holy Spirit, you have no cares and no concerns, no burdens, no anxiety, no pain, no fear, no fear of future, and no past regrets. In timelessness, you rest, while time goes by. Without times, in timelessness, you rest, while time goes by, without time's touch upon you. For your rest in God can never change in any way at all. The peace that you get from God is everlasting. It never really truly can change at a deep level. Okay. You rest in God today. You rest today in God. And as you close your eyes, Sink into stillness. Let these periods of rest and respite reassure your mind that all its frantic, fear based, egoic fantasies were but the dreams of fever that has passed away. They were but the dreams of fever that has passed away. Let your egoic mind be still and thankfully accept your ego's healing. No more fearful egoic dreams will come now that you rest in God. Take time today to slip away from fearful egoic dreams and into the peace of God. Each hour that you take your rest in God today, each hour that you take your 5 minutes to practice this stuff we're going to talk about, to rest in God today, thinking about the words we're going to talk about, a tired, split mind, your split mind in this human world is suddenly made flat, happy, peaceful. A bird with broken wings begins to sing. A stream dry begins to flow again. The world is born again. Each time you rest in God, the world is born again each time you rest in God. And hourly, remember, in that 5 minutes, hourly remember that you came to bring the peace of God into the world, that the world might take its rest in God along with you. With each 5 minutes that you rest in God today, the world is nearer to waking. And the time when you rest in God will be the only thing there is. Only thing there is comes closer to all worn and tired split minds, split human minds that think about the love and the good and the negative and the bad. That's why they're split. Too weary now to go their way alone. And the tired split minds will now hear the birds begin to sing and the stream begin to flow again, with hope reborn and energy restored to walk with lightened steps along the road that suddenly seems easy as they go. It seems easy as you go along the road of the world now. You rest within the perfect peace of God and call upon your brothers from your rest in God to draw your brothers to their rest in God along with you. Brothers and sisters, not just brothers, brothers and sisters, everyone. You draw them to their rest in God along with you. You will be faithful to your trust today, forgetting that no one, bringing everyone into the boundless circle of your peace in God, the holy sanctuary where you rest in God. You will be faithful. I'm going to repeat it. You will be faithful to your trust today, forgetting no one, bringing everyone into the boundless circle of your peace in God, the holy sanctuary where you rest in God. Open the temple doors and let all come from far across the world and near as well. Your distant brothers, brothers and sisters, your distant brothers and sisters, and your closest friends. Bid them all to enter here and rest in God with you. You rest within the peace of God today. You rest within the peace of God today. Quiet and unafraid. Each brother or sister comes to take his rest in God and offer his rest in God to you. We rest together here. We rest together here. For thus our rest is made complete. And what we give today, we have received already. We have already received this, but what I hear about and what I've learned from other spiritual paths is that we've allowed these blocks to come from outside the world, all the hurts, all the fears. We've allowed them to block what we already have. The peace, the love, the joy we already have is kind of blocked. There's like curtains. Some spiritual paths say there's a curtain. Some say there's just a block or rocks in the glass that block your view. Um, so you've already received these things, but you just have blocks to your seeing them. Time is not the guardian of what we give today. Time is not the guardian of what we give today. We give to those unborn and those passed away, to every thought of God, and to the mind in which these thoughts were born, and where these thoughts rest. And we remind all people, all things, of their resting place. Each time we tell ourselves, I rest in God. That's the end of the lesson. I'm going to pause it and then I'm going to continue to read the notes, which will help you to understand some of the things I just read there in the lesson. I'll be right back. Thanks. Okay, everybody, I took a little quick break there. You could have stopped the recording, or you could stop it now before I start the second part, which is the notes to lesson 109, and it's called I Rest in God. I rest in God is what we have actually come here to experience in this fear-based world. There's so much fear and so much upset and so much uncomfortableness in this world. I rest in God is what we have actually come here to experience in this fear-based world. That the collective consciousness of the egoic mind has created. I rest in God has the power to restore your inner peace. This is the one thought in which the Son of God is born again to recognize himself as the big S self. This world of conflict, struggle, and egoic striving gives way to the realization that you remain God's beloved child, and nothing can rob you of your inner peace in truth. It can only seem to rob you of the inner peace in this world, but at a deeper soul level, there's always peace. You always have peace. It never goes away. You rest in strength and certainty that God's plan is the perfect path for all. You accept God's will as your will. Happiness and the peace of God are both your divine birthright and your destiny. You no longer are concerned with your ego's plans that dictate that you must obtain a certain result or do the certain thing or get the certain thing, that you must obtain a certain result to gain salvation, to gain that happiness, to gain the peace of God. Instead, you realize that everyone's salvation is guaranteed by God and that each is on their own perfect path of reawakening. Tolerance, allowance, and acceptance have replaced striving, correcting, and arguing for the rightness of your ego's plan for salvation. When you rest in God, calmness, and peace abide in you. You accept the grace of God. Grace is the acceptance of the love of God in a world of seeming hate and fear. Note this definition. Grace does not mean that the mass collective consciousness that created this world of egoic form will suddenly become all peaceful and loving. Everyone will not share your vision of Christ, and fear will not disappear from this planet. Instead, it will mean that the illusion of fear and hatred will no longer find a place in your heart. The ones who are studying this and other spiritual paths. Instead, it will mean that the illusion of fear and hatred will no longer find a place in your heart, whoever is studying these spiritual paths, of which there are many that work beautifully. This is just one of them. You will not allow your inner peace to be subservient to the drama that this fearful based world seems to relish. You will not allow your inner peace to be taken away or misguided to the drama that this world seems to love and relish or enjoy. To the outside observer, the world may continue to be full of hate and fear. But this illusion no longer is something you need to fear. One who's studying this amazing book. This illusion is no longer something you need to fear. Illusions cannot shake your certainty. Illusions cannot shake your certainty. I've also noticed, let me just say, that other spiritual paths that I really enjoy and love use that word too. Your certainty, the state of being sure, your certainty that life is going to be peaceful, loving, and all of that. So the illusions cannot shake your certainty in the truth of what you are. When you rest in God, you have given yourself the right to drop your ego's plan to save the world. You have given yourself the right to drop your ego's plan to save the world. Because your ego's plan is never going to work. It's when you go out there searching and looking for that one thing that's going to help you to feel better out there in the world, and it never does. It might for like a short time, but only the things of God are just there permanently. They're not going anywhere. So those things that you get out there in the world are part of your ego's plan to save the world, which is basically to make it never be saved, to keep it searching and keep looking for the thing that's going to save them. That's what the ego's plan is, to keep searching for the one thing that's going to actually help you and save you. You have given yourself permission to allow and to go with the flow that is God's plan. The ego's plan envisions some predetermined results that must be obtained. It dictates a particular plan you must follow to get the predetermined results. The ego's plans envision some predetermined results that must be obtained. It dictates a particular plan that you must follow to get the predetermined results that the ego puts forth, which will never work once again. This engenders a great deal of stress and prevents you from being in the moment. When you rest in God, you can enjoy everyone's journey, resting in the certainty that each is exactly where they want to be and need to be in their own journey of rediscovery. Rediscovery is the act of finding again, rediscovering, finding it again. You can observe another's journey that seems full of turmoil and drama and simply marvel at what they created, because that drama and turmoil is actually what they created. You do not make them wrong for choosing a different path from your own. You have surrendered your ego's will to the will of God. You feel safe and confident in asking and following the guidance of the Holy Spirit. You are a spiritual being having you are a spiritual being, excuse me. You are a spiritual being having an earthly experience and can enjoy the journey. You no longer have to save, fix, control, change, impress, or protect another. Instead, you accept, allow, and simply ask the Holy Spirit what love would have you do. I'm going to read that again. You no longer have to save, fix, control, change, impress, or protect another. Instead, you accept, allow, and simply ask the Holy Spirit what love would have you do. You follow your inner guidance system that monitors your inner peace and go in that direction. This does not mean that you will automatically comply with another party's plans because you rest in God. This does not mean that you will automatically comply with another party's plans because you rest in God. God is where you get your guidance from, your answers, not from other people in this world. Ultimately, you get your own personal answers from God and the Holy Spirit. Rather, It means you are free from being manipulated by the blame, shame, and guilt games of this world. Gotta read that again. This does not mean that you will automatically comply with another party in the world's plans or person in the world's plans because you rest in God. Rather, it means that you are free from being manipulated by the blame, shame, and guilt games of this world, including the ones in the church. Just saying. It is no longer necessary for you to follow anyone's egoic plans for their salvation and happiness. You rest in the certainty that the voice for God is within you and is the only plan you need to follow. Let me read that again. You rest in the certainty that the voice for God is within you and is the only plan to be followed. This means that discernment meaning the ability to understand clearly. This means that the ability to understand clearly, discernment, has replaced egoic judgment. You will still be able to observe events as they unfold in time and space in the world. This world is considered to be a place of time and space. You will still be able to observe events as they unfold in time and space. And realize that you would not choose that experience for yourself. Nor would you respond to those circumstances in the same way as what you're seeing out there in the world. But you will no longer have to make the other party wrong. But you will no longer have to make the other party wrong for their decision. We are all free to make our own decisions. We shouldn't make anyone wrong or declare in our mind they're wrong for whatever their decision is. Allowance and tolerance will replace your need to judge and be right. Allowance and tolerance will replace your need to judge and be right. This change in perception arises from the knowledge that each is on their own perfect path. This change in how you perceive time grants you the calmness and inner peace that allows you to accept the love of God in a world of seeming fear and hate. This change in how you perceive time grants you the calmness and inner peace that allows you to accept the love of God in a world of seeming fear and hate. Nothing can rob you of your own inner peace. You realize that you do not want to know the big picture. Oh, wait. You do not want to know the big picture. You realize that you do not want to know the big picture, but your strength rests in the certainty that only God's plan will work. Only God's plan will work. All these things out there in the world you think will give you peace, give you happiness, and give you joy are not the way. Only God's plan will work to really give you peace. And you become a willing and active witness for that plan, which is what I am. I am a willing and active witness for God's plan. And now we just have a question. Here's the question. On the practical level, if you rest in God, does that mean that you will become a passive observer and not an active participant on this game board of time and space? On the practical level, if you rest in God, does that mean that you will become a passive observer and not an active participant on this game board of time and space, this game board of life? I'm not always going to answer the questions that it asks, but I would say yes. Resting in God does not mean you have to play that game and dance around in that game that is of this world and the things of this world. It's totally separate. So you do become, when you really follow God's plan, you do become a passive observer. You can see the craziness, but you're not participating in it. It does mean you're a passive observer and you're not actively getting in there in the systems of this world and playing the games of this world. You're resting in God. So that's my thought. But anyway, here's the end of the notes on the lesson. Um, I am a very emotional person, so the ones who don't mind this will be here. The ones who can't stand it will go. And that's all right with me because I'm doing what I feel most in my heart is here to help the world and move things in a good, beautiful direction. So please, if you enjoy this, just subscribe, and I hope you enjoy the next lesson I post on this page. Thanks so much for listening. Bye bye.